office, and I thought she was going to yell at me, but she told me not to do that again. And then she handed me a USB drive. It was black and white, about this big, and on it was the second quarter Obama donor list for 2007. Now, my job was to contact the maxed out presidential donors and get them to give to ACORN, because ACORN was working with the campaign to get Obama elected. And that's when I first really had a problem. I had tried to expose ACORN back, I'm sorry? No coordination. I had tried to expose ACORN before, right after all of this happened, and I had my daughter in 2006, and I started feeling bad about what we were doing, so I had contacted a group called the Employment Policies Institute. They run a site called writenacorn.com. I had talked to a guy named Brett Jacobson, who now writes over at Big Government, and this was my first contact with anybody on the right for real, and since they had this horrible site against ACORN, I thought that they were going to pump me for information. So Brett, being the guy that he was, he told me, well, you just had a daughter, and going up against ACORN is kind of dangerous. Why don't you call me back when you get away from the organization, and we can do this together? I was in shock. I thought that, the evil Republicans were going to, try to figure out a way to take ACORN down any way they could. But no, this guy was looking out for my best interest. So not only did I feel a little bit relieved, but also it gave me courage to try to change the organization from within. So I had come up with all these lofty ideas and things, but that day when I was sitting in the office and I got that donor list, my feelings were kind of mixed, conflicted, because I'm like, if my team is cheating, are we really winning? And that's what we were doing. We were cheating. So I decided that thinking, once again, as a liberal, that Obama was a good person and that I had to expose ACORN so Obama could govern effectively. And so I started looking around as to who to contact. And one of the things about going up against a group like ACORN is that they have powerful friends in the media, people that will shut you down very quickly. There were other people in the organization who wanted to talk, but they told me, oh, Anita, we'll leave it alone because you'll never work again. Or, if you go against ACORN, you go against the Democrat Party, and we can't do that. But my chance came in July of 2008. How many of you guys remember the ACORN embezzlement scandal?
Yeah.
Yes, the brother of the founder of ACORN embezzled, they say $1 million. It was actually more than that, but they can only prove $1 million from the organization, and it was discovered by the New York Times. So I called the New York Times, thinking that, the All Great Lady, the paper that, because I started off in journalism. Not many people know this, but I was a debater in high school and the editor of the school newspaper. So I started off in journalism before switching over to political science and history, because people told me, journalism is a dying field, you never make any money there. But so I'm thinking the old gray lady, the Obama donor list and information and outside confirmation of meetings between the campaign and ACORN. From July of 08 to October of 08, they strung me along. Each story, if you go and look at Stephanie Strom's stories, her name was Stephanie Strom, she wrote for the New York Times, and every one of those stories was more watered down than the rest. So finally, we're getting up to October, and I'm not sure what to do, because once again, I'm a liberal, so there's not too many options here. So I contacted my backup. My backup was a crazy lady named Michelle Malkin. I had gone to her website, and I was a little freaked out now because, as a liberal, you read Michelle Malkin's website, your head can explode. But I didn't know what else to do because she seemed to be the only person that got it. She was one of the few people that was reporting on the story, so I sent her an email and let her know what I had. And, everybody sends emails to her that address of hers, so she didn't get it right then and there. We would eventually connect, but it wasn't until 2009. So that was my backup plan. When that didn't work, there I was in October, 2 weeks before the election, and my daughter at the time was 2, and she had been playing in my makeup, and I had put her in the bathtub. So I usually answer the phone as soon as the New York Times would call, but this one time I didn't get it because I was watching my daughter, and when I came back, I checked the voicemail, and it was Stephanie Strom, who was on her way to D.C. to pick up the copy of the Obama donor list and get more document evidence of collusion between ACORN, Project Vote, and the campaign. She told me that her editors had told her to stand down. And if I hadn't have had that voicemail, I don't know what would have happened, because eventually when we got that story out, it was her credibility against mine. And you know, the New York Times usually wins in those situations. But we had the voicemail, and after they denied everything, we played it for them. And you know what happened after I called her back? She told me that it was not the policy of the New York Times to print a game changer that close to the election for either side. And now I'm flabbergasted, upset, angry, and hurt, because they had just printed a story about John McCain using an anonymous source saying that he had some type of affair. And here I was willing to come out and be identified, and they had independent corroboration. So I went to CNN. They did a 3-tape interview that never aired. I went to ABC News and Martha Raddax's people. They also were able to prove that the donor list could not have been downloaded from the internet, because it included the donors that Obama refused to turn over. You know, if you remember, he wouldn't turn over anything under $200. So all of those donors, including the $25 donors and the questionable ones on the website that they had turned off the verification for, we had all of those, because he wouldn't give it to the FEC, but he gave it to ACORN. But no one wanted to run with the story. And that's kind of where my story begins, because there was a level of frustration and disillusionment that everyone wanted to carry water and to bury this instead of getting the truth out. All of the people that I trusted to do the right thing, no one wanted to do the right thing. And I remember going and, once again, being a liberal, I just hitting your head against that wall thinking things are going to change. I went and I voted for Obama on election day, and I felt that things were going to be different, because I thought America was coming into a new place. That lasted until about January of '09. Now, keep in mind, I had worked with the American Bar Association, Project Vote, ACORN, American Rights at Work, which was a pro-labor organization where Hilda Solis was the treasurer, and she was nominated to become a labor secretary in order to pass card check. While I was in D.C., I also planned a meeting for Andy Stern, president of SEIU, the Service Employees International Union, for Kathleen Sebelius, then the governor of Kansas, to come up to D.C. to not only accept an award from Stern and American Rights at Work, but to plot how to pass universal health care. So Kathleen Sebelius would then become Health and Human Services Secretary. Leon Panetta has more communist ties than most people in Washington, and also strong ACORN ties. So I'm looking at the people Obama is picking for his cabinet, and then this is where things start to click. Because how can you be a good person when everyone around you is a corrupt criminal or a crook or some other form of communist association? And that's when I said, and I don't want to offend anyone, but it's just the truth. I said, I'm through, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. And I became an ex-liberal. It never occurred to me. Thank you. It never occurred to me to become a Republican. No offense. But that's where programming comes in, and that's where I am now, because I was so brainwashed. People get mad at Herman Cain for using that term, but it's true. I was so brainwashed that I expected something totally different than what I got. When I became an ex-liberal and people found out it was me that had been coordinating with the New York Times, I lost friends. I had family members defriend me on Facebook. They called me all kinds of names, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I was cut off from everything I had ever known, but I still was pushing this story out there. I was putting it on Facebook, I was Twittering, I was blogging. If they wouldn't put the story out there, gosh darn it, I was going to put it out there myself. And that's when I met the people from Smart Girl Politics. And they embraced me right around the same time. American Majority and a lot of these other groups, Freedom Works and the Tea Party Express, there's so many groups that were coming up right there at the beginning of 2009, and they embraced me. And it was weird because I never expected conservatives to be nice to me. All my friends were liberals. You know, my family in my house, it was Jesus and JFK. Those are two pictures on the walls growing up. We were Kennedy Democrats. Everyone around us, even at the University of Alabama, all my friends were liberals. My professors were liberals. So here I am faced with conservatives who think I'm funny. They laugh at my jokes. They're not treating me weird. It was everything that you didn't expect. And, you know, I expected, to be met with anger and racism and all those additional things you see on the media. And so as my heart started to change, I started to identify more with the conservatives and with the Tea Party movement, and I realized that even though I wasn't on the left, I didn't have to stop doing what I was doing. I could still be a part and be active. So I joined Smart Girl, and I taught voter registration and voter fraud and all types of different classes across the country. And then from there, I became the national spokesperson for American Majority, and I started training on election integrity. I've been working with True the Vote out in Houston, Texas. And this is where we are right now. This brings me up to today. I started the Boots of Liberty Task Force, BOLT, because I have been, you need to have been on the inside on the left, and then for some miraculous miracle of I don't know what, to find yourself on the inside on the right. I see things that people just don't get. And what I'm seeing right now has been troubling me deeply. One of the things I need you guys to understand is that ACORN has not gone anywhere. What we did is, like Michelle Malkin says, sunlight is the best disinfectant. When you turn on the lights, they're like roaches, they scatter. Because people we didn't go after the folks. We took down the organization, but the same people are out there organizing and doing the same things with different names. Daryl Issa talks so tough about going after people. You know, he's head of the House Government Oversight and Reform Committee. But once he got elected, he has not talked about ACORN anymore. You want to know why? It's not because ACORN is a non-issue and they're not still out there organizing and getting taxpayer dollars. Recently, it was discovered that ACORN Housing, which is now the Affordable Housing Centers of America, received over $1 million from the grant from the government. And the reason why they were able to get it is because they signed an affidavit that said that they weren't affiliated with ACORN. We have enough documents to prove that that was not only a lie, that that person could go to jail for perjury. We have over 55,000 documents that were left over after ACORN sued me for $5 million and was unsuccessful in getting their information back. Excuse me. That lawsuit was dismissed in 2010. We were waiting for ISA to subpoena us so we could go after the people, the real bad guys. But ISA was threatened by Wade Rathke. Wade Rathke